We already know clutter is stressful. You can see it and you can feel it. But I want to talk about something nobody is really saying out loud, which is that the stuff in your home has a price tag that has nothing to do with what you paid for it, and some stuff that does. There's what it costs you in money, and there's what it costs you in time. Oh, and what it costs your health. And what the costs in your life you're not living because you're too drained to live it because of your stuff. Let's start with the one that stings a little. And you might think it stings the most, but oh no, there's more coming. But that is the money that you spent on stuff. We have to face something that keeping our clutter can never help us accept. That money is gone. And I know it is hard to hear, but I want you to really sit with it for a second, because one of the biggest reasons people hold on to things that they don't use is they feel that getting rid of them is like losing the money twice. Like if you keep it, somehow the purchase still makes sense. Only you get to live with your money in the form of stuff that you don't use surrounding you and stressing you out. So I'm just looked up a couple stats here and they are all over the place. So it could be that some people, Canadians, had $571 worth of unwanted items stored in their homes, which I feel like that has got to be so low. That number seems so low. However, there also was something that said that there were $93 billion of things hiding in US homes, and that people could sell things in their homes and make approximately $723. Although I still think that number seems super duper low. Now remember, that money left you the moment you bought the thing. Keeping it does not make it so that suddenly you're going to recover that money. It just adds to the cost. Plus, here's where it gets worse, because a lot of us, and I include myself in this, I have watched family members do this too. We don't just buy the stuff, we buy stuff to store the stuff. Girl, I had shelves built. My uncle built shelves for us. I have purchased totes. I have bought shelves. I think I must be thousands of dollars deep of this in my own personal home storage. I've watched people I love spend real money month after month on storage units full of things that they never went to retrieve. And what's worse is in the back of their mind, they're like, I have to go and deal with the stuff in the storage unit. The most painful truth is that in most cases, the stuff in those units could have been donated. The money spent on storing it could have just stayed in their pocket. Americans spend over $38 billion a year in self-storage. The United States has more storage facilities than McDonald's, Starbucks, and Dunkin' Donuts combined, which is a very surprising statistic because I have been down there and I've seen a lot of those stores. And that's just the external storage, not counting totes, shelves, etc. Organizing is not the solution to too much stuff. It's just a more expensive version of the problem. And I'm not anti-shelves. I do like a little bit of storage for things that we do use, like Christmas, but for the most part, we don't need to be storing stuff. The time cost. This one is sneaky because it does not show up as a line item anywhere in our budgets, although it should. But think about how much time you spend managing your things. I'm not saying that you schedule it. What I'm saying is that it just happens. And day after day, and you don't even realize it. You're moving things to clean around them. Reorganizing a drawer that keeps getting chaotic because there's simply too much in it. Searching for something you know you own, but you cannot find. Not to mention decluttering the same spaces over and over because the volume never actually goes down. The average American spends 2.5 days a year looking for their lost items. That's not a typo. 2.5 days. And that's just the looking. That doesn't count the reorganizing, the shuffling, the moving things from one surface to the other without ever actually dealing with them. And then there's the decluttering itself. When you let things accumulate for years, the process of sorting through it becomes enormous. And it's not an afternoon project anymore. It's an excavation. Every item requires a decision, and the decision fatigue is real. Your brain gets so tired of choosing, and eventually it just stops. You even reach the end of the day and you almost lose your mind when the Subway sandwich artist asks you which type of bread you would like. The decision fatigue is why so many people start decluttering and then they just stop. We don't get lazy. The volume is just so overwhelming. Our brains are like, I am done. Less stuff means less time spent on all of it. And that doesn't just disappear, it comes back to you for the things that actually matter. Let's not waste our precious time on this earth managing our stuff of all of our crazy endeavors. Let's talk about the health costs. And this is something I feel more qualified to talk about as a former ER nurse. I have studied this, I have looked at the research, and one of the things I think people really underestimate is how much the clutter is affecting their health. So clutter stresses us out. It raises our cortisol. And that is not just a metaphor, that is a measurable, documented physiological response. Now, cortisol is like the stress hormone, which is secreted by our adrenal glands. A study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found women living in cluttered homes had elevated cortisol levels throughout the entire day. Not just when they were looking at the mess, but consistently all day. Now, our cortisol goes up in the morning. It sort of like helps you get going for the day, and then it goes down. Not these women. And yes, men feel the stress too. I have mentioned this study before and people are like, men feel it too. And I was like, I know, I'm just saying that's what the cortisol showed. Anyway, let's talk about chronically elevated cortisol and what it actually does to your body. So it increases your blood pressure, which then, if it is chronically increased, your blood pressure, it raises your risk of stroke and certain cardiac events. It suppresses your immune system, which makes it harder for your body to fight infection, harder to fight things like cancer, and it makes you more prone to autoimmune conditions. Plus, that disrupts your sleep, increases your cravings for sugar and processed foods. Clutter is also not just an eyesore, it's a low-grade chronic stressor that your body is responding to every single day. Plus, there are injury risks that we need to talk about because in the emergency department, it would break my heart when people would come in, usually seniors, who had broken their hip or had a shoulder injury or whatever, and these could be devastatingly permanently life-changing, not to mention the air quality. Clutter traps dust, allergens, mold, and bacteria, which could increase infection risk, especially if you're already prone to infection, maybe because your cortisol is elevated. A cluttered home is not a safe home. Plus, get this. Princeton researchers found that clutter reduces cognitive performance by 32%. So your brain is trying to process every single thing it sees when your environment is chaotic. It's just working harder just to function. And you often will feel it as brain fog, as exhaustion, as that vague sense that you just can't think straight. It's like trying to play whack-a-mole while trying to exist. Ooh, and then there's, the cost to your life. The most important thing. This is one of the hardest to quantify. And I recently went through a very stressful, challenging period. And I'm not going to get into details, I already have in a past video, but it was one of those stretches where just getting through the day took so much effort. Minutes were challenging, eating felt impossible, and caring for my family was important and doable. I was doing it, but honestly, anything else on top of that felt very challenging. But what I noticed and felt really, really clearly is that when you're already depleted, your environment either helps you to recover or it makes everything harder. Now, I was fortunate because my home was in order. I had decluttered it years ago and I do continue to maintain it. And that matters more than I can even tell you, because if I was out, I could come home and just feel the calm instead of walking into another source of stress. And it was so helpful because when you're in survival mode, your environment is even more important than you realize. I could actually focus on taking care of myself because I wasn't fighting the chaos around me. And I know some of you are in that place right now. And I just want you to know that I see you. Your nervous system cannot cope with much. And I wouldn't have even, I had a couple things I needed to sell on Facebook Marketplace. And for some reason that felt hard for me. It was like my subconscious, my nervous system was like, no, don't do it. But that has changed. So whenever it lightens a bit, whenever you are starting to feel better, try to lighten your house. Take advantage of that and start making those strides in the right direction. Because I thought a lot about during that time what it would have been like if my house was cluttered, and it would have been very hard. And I know that when you're struggling and your home is a mess, the clutter doesn't just sit there. It is pressing on you. It reminds you of everything you haven't done. It makes you feel worse. It paralyzes you at the exact moment you most actually need to move and have it to be gone. And here's what the research shows and what I have seen firsthand. Clutter and poor mental health, they feed each other. A cluttered home, it increases anxiety and depression. And anxiety and depression make it harder to declutter. And around you go. A 2010 study found that reduced rates of depression among people who describe their homes as tidy and organized. Not perfect, just tidy. The bar doesn't have to be super high, but it matters enormously. And this is the cost I really want you to feel, because it's not just about the house. It's about the life you have, the energy when the house isn't draining you, the walks that you take, the meals that you cook, the time you actually spend with people you love instead of managing your stuff. Your home should be your medicine. It should not be your poison. It should be the place you come back to and you feel restored, not the place that adds to the weight. Here's what I want you to understand, and I mean really get. Like, as in, take this away, as in sushi from the hottest spot in town. Get ready. Decluttering and taking care of yourself are not two separate projects. They are the same project. In my membership, which is the Mighty Circle, we have home and health. They are a circle. They feed off of each other. When your home gets lighter, you feel lighter. Girl, you will probably have more energy. You will sleep better. And your cortisol will come down. Plus, you have more capacity to eat well, to plan healthy things, to move your body, to show up for the people around you. And when you're taking care of yourself, when you're feeling rested and nourished and not running on empty, you have the energy to declutter, to continue doing those things. It's a happy feedback loop to make the decisions and to finish the process instead of stopping halfway through. And that is not just a coincidence that it all works together. This is what I'm all about on this channel. If you're standing in a cluttered home and you're feeling overwhelmed and you also feel like you just can't take care of yourself right now, again, understand it all is connected and you can start with just one of those things. Start doing a little bit of decluttering and then go make yourself a healthy snack. A good night's sleep gives you the capacity to declutter. Pick one and begin, and then pick the next healthy habit. The stuff in your home has already cost you money. Don't let it keep costing you your health and your time and your life. I have created a method for decluttering your house. It is a way of just sort of saying, okay, what is the worst? Where should I start? And then within that space, where should I start? What's bugging me? How do I want it to look? Then we simplify, we declutter, then we organize, and then we create systems to keep it gone. And that is what I call my mighty method. And I have a free blueprint for you, minimalisthome.ca/blueprint. It walks you through the entire method, room by room, without overwhelm. Because the goal was never a perfect home. It was a home that supports you where you want to live. I hope something great happens for you today. Please like, subscribe, give us a hype. Stay tidy and mighty. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.